I returned to the office at midnight. No one really understood why a young CEO like me, disciplined, cold, and precise, would suddenly show up at headquarters in the middle of the night, just to retrieve a forgotten laptop. Outside, the rain fell in violent sheets, pounding the windows like the world was weeping, like something tragic had been set in motion. I stepped into the elevator, my heart slow, heavy, uncertain. I wasn't afraid of the dark. What I feared was the emptiness, the kind that echoes through a building long after everyone's gone home. When even the conference rooms start to feel hollow and sterile, like abandoned theaters with no audience. The elevator dinged on the 18th floor. That's when I saw her. The door to the main conference room creaked open, and my eyes landed not on the laptop, but on a small, fragile form curled up beneath the table. Time froze. The rain, the hum of the building, even my breath. She was fast asleep, knees drawn to her chest, her thin jacket pulled tight over her shoulders like a shield against the world. A girl, homeless, out of place in a skyscraper of glass and steel. I stepped closer, carefully, cautiously. Her hair was tangled, her clothes worn and patched. She clutched a faded backpack like it held everything she had left in the world. Then, she stirred. Her eyes opened, wide, startled. There was fear in them. But more than that, something raw, something ancient, hope, desperation, dignity. Her voice was a tremble. I'm sorry. I didn't take anything. I just needed somewhere to sleep. Just one night. Please, don't call security. And I stood there, caught between policy and instinct, between the image I'd built for myself and the human being huddled before me. Call security? Walk away like I never saw her? Or, I swallowed the lump in my throat. What's your name? She hesitated. Lana. Just one word, so soft I almost didn't catch it. I nodded. My hand tightened around the laptop as I crossed the room. She said nothing more. She didn't beg. She didn't plead. She just held onto that torn backpack like it was a life raft in a storm. You have 6 hours, I said, before the office opens. Be gone before anyone sees you. I turned and walked out. The door closed behind me with a soft, echoing thud, and she was alone again, but not like before. Something had shifted. She had a place to sleep tonight, even if it was only temporary. And maybe, so did I. I didn't sleep that night. It wasn't the rain. It wasn't even the unease of letting a complete stranger, one who clearly had nowhere else to go, sleep undisturbed in a room I paid millions to keep clean, sterile, and secure. It was her eyes. They stayed with me. The way she didn't plead, didn't explain herself, didn't cry. There was pride in that girl. Not arrogance, not defiance, just quiet dignity, like someone who had lost almost everything but still carried something sacred within. By 6 a.m., I was back at the office, not because I didn't trust her, but because I wanted to be the one to see her leave. I stepped into the hallway and paused. She wasn't gone. Lana was still there, sitting by the window now, arms wrapped around her knees, watching the sunrise. I cleared my throat. She turned, startled, but only a little. I was just about to leave, she said quickly, grabbing her bag. But she didn't run. She waited, as if waiting for a verdict. I gestured toward the window. You like sunrises? She blinked, confused. Yes, they make the city look honest, I said, before the noise starts again. She looked down, then up at me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she spoke. I used to have a room with a window. When I was little, my mom would open it every morning and say, even the sky gets a fresh start. So do we. She looked away quickly, like she regretted saying too much. I nodded. That's a good line. And then I did something I hadn't planned. Come with me. She flinched. What? Just for breakfast? Her eyes narrowed, suspicious, wary. Not pity, I said. Just eggs and coffee. Lana didn't speak for a long time. But then, she stood, carefully, slowly, and followed. We walked 2 blocks to a cafe I barely remembered existed. She sat by the window like someone who hadn't had a real meal in weeks, and maybe she hadn't. She didn't touch the menu, so I ordered for both of us. When the food came, she stared at the plate, and then, with trembling hands, picked up the fork and whispered, "Thank you." That was when I knew. This wasn't the first night she'd spent on a floor, and maybe not the last, but it was the first time someone had looked at her and said, without words, "You still matter." The next morning, she was gone. No note, no name, besides what little I already knew. Lana. But she left behind a faint trace of lavender and dust in the conference room. Like a dream that wasn't supposed to last the night but did anyway. I stood there, staring at the chair by the window where she had watched the sunrise. It still held the shape of someone who didn't quite believe she belonged anywhere. I didn't tell anyone. No security footage, no audit, no cleanup report, just silence. But that silence followed me. Through board meetings, budget calls, and the usual string of investors asking if I was finally going to buy the AI startup we'd been circling for months. I answered every question, made every decision, gave every nod, except the one I couldn't shake. Lana. Who was she? Why that building? Why that room? 3 nights later, I found out. Not because she came back, but because I did. Again. After midnight. Again. With no reason that made sense on paper. But there I was, returning to the same 18th floor like a man chasing a ghost. She wasn't there. Not under the table, not by the window. But something was. A book. Old, frayed, water-damaged. On the first page, in faded blue ink, property of Lana Marie Ortega. Room 7B. Hope House Shelter. The stars are not so far away. I stared at that handwriting for a long time. It was careful, elegant, not the scribbles of someone barely surviving. It was a girl who once took pride in spelling her name clearly. A girl who believed stars were close enough to reach. That night, I opened the book. It was a journal, half poetry, half pain. Drawings of faces, mostly women. One with a scar near her eye, another with arms full of books. Notes scribbled in the margins. She smiled at me today, and, don't forget. Tomorrow is interview day, and then. Blank pages. The last entry was dated 9 months ago. I didn't make it. They picked the other girl. Said I seemed too nervous. Mom said try again next year, but I don't think I can. I'm so tired. I don't want her to see me like this. I can't go back. That's when something cracked in me. I'd read reports of mental health declines. I'd donated to shelters, shaken hands at charity galas. But this wasn't a report. This wasn't a statistic. This was someone who once studied, interviewed, fought for a future. Someone who had a mother. Someone who gave up, and yet, didn't completely vanish. She came back here, maybe not for safety, maybe not even for warmth. Maybe because something in her remembered who she used to be. Maybe because I reminded her. Or maybe, because she reminded me. The next day, I called in a quiet favor. I knew someone in social outreach who owed me a silent debt. Within hours, she handed me a name and a trace. Lana Ortega, age 24, used to be a scholarship student at Eastbrook. Literature major, dropped out her 3rd year after her mother died. No known address since. She's been on and off shelters for the last 8 months. Avoids government programs. Never causes trouble. Just disappears. That evening, I sat in my car, staring at the entrance of a rundown shelter 3 blocks from the river. People came and went, but I didn't move. What would I even say if I saw her? Why was I here? Why was she the one I couldn't let go? It wasn't pity. It wasn't guilt. It was something harder to name. Like seeing a mirror with a crack running through it, one that didn't shatter. Just refracted the truth until it hurt. I thought I was saving her. But maybe she was saving me. From what? I didn't know yet. But something in me hoped. She wasn't at the shelter the next day. Nor the day after that. I kept telling myself it wasn't my place to interfere. She'd survived this long on her own. What right did I have to look for her like a man chasing some misplaced fate? And yet I did. Every night, the city seemed to whisper pieces of her. A girl beneath a wool coat too thin for the wind. A soft voice on a late-night bus. A shape in a shadow, just a heartbeat too slow to turn. She was becoming legend in my mind. Not because she wanted to be, but because I couldn't stop replaying the way she had said my name. Soft, surprised, like she thought I might not answer. Then on a Thursday afternoon, just after 4, I walked into the staff kitchen on the 10th floor to get some coffee. And there she was, not in rags, not asleep under a table, but standing upright, in jeans and a gray hoodie, hair tucked behind her ear, washing mugs at the sink. I stopped walking. She didn't turn, but she knew. I wasn't sure you'd recognize me without the conference room, she said. I swallowed. I almost didn't, I said, but then I heard the silence shift. She looked up, that same tired strength in her eyes, like a person holding herself together with a thread and a prayer. I'm just helping out, she said. Your office manager, Tessa, she volunteers at Hope House sometimes, said you needed a temp for kitchen cleanup this week. My chest tightened. She hadn't come back for help. She'd come back for work. To earn something. To prove something. To herself. Maybe. To me? Do you? I started. But the question got stuck. She turned off the tap, wiped her hands, and faced me fully. I came because I needed to feel human again, she said. Not invisible, not pitied, just seen. I nodded slowly. You are. Her breath caught for a second. Not because of the words, but because I meant them. Not out of charity, out of respect, out of something deeper than admiration. Something dangerously close to tenderness. She walked past me then, carrying a tray of mugs, and I followed her to the hallway. Do you have a minute? I asked. She hesitated, then nodded. I led her into the small executive lounge. Nobody ever used it but me, and shut the door behind us. She stood by the window, the city stretching behind her like a map she didn't believe in. I read your journal, I said gently. You left it in the conference room. Her face didn't flinch, just her hands. I didn't mean to, she whispered. I thought I took everything with me. I'm glad you didn't, I said. She looked up. I didn't read it to pry. I continued. I read it because I wanted to understand. And because I wanted to know who you were before the world stopped seeing you. She said nothing, but the silence between us changed. Not defensive, not afraid, just fragile, like a moment waiting to choose whether to live or die. I used to write poetry, she said, almost to herself. Not very good, but it felt like breathing. I thought it was beautiful, I said. She met my eyes. No one said that to me in a long time. I stepped forward. I'd like to say more, if you'd let me. She blinked, as if the idea itself felt dangerous. Why me? She asked, voice barely audible. You're who you are, and I'm just some girl who used to dream too loud. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked to the cabinet, poured her a cup of hot tea, and handed it to her like it was sacred. Then I said, because I think we both know what it's like to be in rooms full of people and still feel completely alone. That cracked something open. Just a little. She smiled. Not big, not bright, but real. We sat there for 20 minutes. No titles, no backstories, just two people, quiet and tired and curious. Before she left, she turned to me. If I came back tomorrow, she asked, would that be okay? I nodded. If you don't, I said, I'll probably come looking again. Her laughter was soft, unpracticed, and beautiful. She came back the next day, and the next. At first, it was just kitchen duty and light organizing in the storage room. Nothing grand, nothing that made her feel indebted or scrutinized. She was cautious, never stayed past 5, never asked questions, never touched her old conference room. But she showed up. That, in itself, was a kind of miracle. On the third afternoon, I asked her if she wanted to help sort books for our small employee library. She lit up a little. "I used to do this at school," she said, running her fingers along the spine of a worn copy of the bell jar. "Before everything fell apart." "You're good at it," I said. She shrugged, but her smile lingered. A few days later, I brought in a box of her old journals and sketch pads, rescued from the conference room. "Untouched. I figured you might want these back." She stared at the box like it might bite her. Then she reached in gently, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and held it to her chest. "I thought I'd lost this," she said. "It's a poem I wrote for my mother." The room felt smaller somehow. More alive, more ours. I offered her a small contract the following week. Nothing formal, just a paid internship to assist with our internal communications, managing stories, newsletters, creative content. "You'd be writing again," I said, not hiding the hope in my voice. "Professionally, with credit, with a title." She didn't say yes right away. She asked for a night to think. The next morning, there was a note on my desk, written in lavender ink. "I accept, but only if I can earn it. Don't give me this because you feel sorry for me. Give it to me because you believe I have something worth saying." I didn't just believe it. I knew it. __. Spring came slowly that year. The city thawed in pieces, like the heart of someone trying to trust again. Lana arrived every day now at 9 a.m. sharp. Still wore the gray hoodie sometimes, but now with a blouse underneath. Sometimes a scarf, sometimes lipstick. Not for anyone else, just to remind herself that she could. Her writing started showing up in small places: the staff bulletin board, the digital welcome packet for new hires, a quiet blog she curated under our corporate wellness initiative. And people noticed. Not just me. "I love the way she writes," one employee said in passing. "Like she's seen the dark, but still roots for the light." I smiled quietly to myself. She had seen the dark. She just never let it have the last word. One afternoon, she brought me a draft of something different. It wasn't internal content. It was a story. A first-person narrative about a girl who once had a home, a scholarship, a mother, and then, one day, nothing. Who slept in train stations, borrowed silence for survival, and finally, found herself again in the last place she expected. "I don't know why I'm giving you this," she said, "maybe just so someone knows." I didn't speak for a full minute. Then I said, "I think the world needs to know." She blinked, scared of the idea. So I added, "When you're ready, no rush." A week later, she submitted it officially. It became the most read post on our company's intranet in under 3 hours. People emailed. They wept. One executive assistant wrote, "Thank you for reminding me that broken people aren't disposable." Lana stayed late that night. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. We sat in the conference room, her old refuge. No longer a hiding place, now a sacred one. She asked me something I didn't expect. "What were you running from that night?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at the city lights behind her, at the faint scar beneath her lip, at the steadiness in her voice. Then I said, "My father died the week before." We hadn't spoken in years. I didn't go to the funeral. I didn't know how to grieve someone I resented. She nodded like she understood more than she should have. "Why did you come back that night?" I asked. Her smile was small, bittersweet. "Because I didn't want to vanish completely. __. We never called it love. Not then. Not even weeks later, when we started walking home together after work. Or when she brought me tea instead of coffee. Or when I left her little quotes on her desk. Lines from her own poems. Typed and framed. But something was building. Something neither of us wanted to name too fast, for fear it might disappear. Then, one Friday evening, she stopped outside the elevator and said, "Do you ever think some people find each other because they already did in another life?" I turned slowly. "Maybe," I said, Or maybe they just met when they were both broken enough to recognize the pieces in each other. She stepped closer. Do you think broken things can become beautiful again? I looked at her for a long time. I don't think they ever stopped being beautiful. She didn't look away. This time, she held the gaze. And in that silence, I knew we were no longer waiting. We were already healing. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Epilogue. She stayed. Not just for the job. Not just for me. She stayed for herself. The girl who once slept on office carpets and wrote poems about stars. She's now our director of internal storytelling. She writes the most powerful stories I've ever read. And she signs them, L.M. Ortega, like someone who finally believes the world should know her name. I still keep that old, faded journal in my desk drawer. Not because she needs it now, but because I do. Because some nights, when the office is quiet again, and the wind brushes past the windows just right, I remember the girl I found sleeping in the conference room. And how saving her was never the point. She saved herself. I just made sure she had a door that stayed open long enough to walk back through.